In 1993, the government of Malaysia captured one of the most notorious criminals in their history. The crime was so ugly, so disturbing, it made it to the news, and it was so famous because politicians were involved and high-end names and the victims too. What happened? Who is this lady? Let's go and listen to the story.
Ku nyanyikan lagu ini, oh sayang, persembahan dariku, saudari-saudara.
Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today's story is one of the most disturbing story in Malaysian history. It's very rare. I'm not sure why it hasn't been translated anywhere. And it made so much fuss in the Malaysian news because of how gruesome and weird it is. That came from someone who was famous, almost. And it involves around black magic. Before we start the story, I have to give you a small introduction about that world. Whether you believe in it, it does exist. People who know about black magic and how it happens. In some cultures, that world is really clear and everybody knows about it because in their ancient theology and their culture, they have more details more than any other culture, but it all goes back to the satanic world. Some nations call it satanic world. Eastern nations, the eastern side of the world, people call it jinn. What is jinn? Probably you are familiar with the blue genie from Aladdin movie, the cartoon. That's the closest, probably friendly picture of them that people know. But there is a dark world where people go to them to help them practice black magic on people. Specific rituals has to be done. Specific I don't know what to call it, like classes that you have to follow to reach that level of excellence. The more dark and the more evil stuff you do, the closer you become to them, and that will open a door where they can help you do supernatural stuff that normal human being cannot do. It's really dark, it's really scary. But this is the story today. I can tell you more about it if you need more information. I have a bunch of stories from the other side of the world about black magic, what they do. Probably you will hear more of it in the future in my stories. If you are interested in that type of stories, please comment and write down. And I'll provide more stories about that type of crime that uses black magic and the devil. And devilish type of black magic. So in this, the hero of our story, the protagonist, her name is Mazna Ismail or Ishmael. She's a Malaysian singer. She was born in 1956. This lady had a dream that she wanted to be a famous singer. She loved fame. She loved to attract attention. She was an artist herself. She had a beautiful voice, she thought. And at the end of I don't post pictures in my story because it's so much work, and my channel is designated for people who are cleaning in the house or driving a car, so it's just a voice. But I'm gonna try to put pictures and videos at the end of my stories, so stay tuned. She had a dark spirit, and you can see it in her face. Of course, everybody who practices black magic, they change eventually, and you will see that really clear in her pictures. To go back to our story, this lady This girl grew up with a big dream to be famous. She loved attention. She wanted to be a singer, and she was an artist herself. She was really good at doing, they call it water ballet. If you never heard of this word, it's like girls doing acrobat underneath the water in groups, which you see it in Olympics. I don't know how people end up there, but it's probably people who love swimming and who are fit and they love water sports. Eventually she wanted to become a singer, but she didn't have the means, so she decided to start singing probably in her late 20s. She kept trying for years. She exhausted her funds. She made an album, then the second album, but people didn't like her. She never signed a contract with any record company. She never got invited to private parties to perform. No channel want to buy her records. Her records never got bought by the public. She sold all her belongings to make a third album, but she also failed, and she didn't know what to do. She fell in depression. Probably one of the reasons where she failed is because she didn't have the means, like the money. That was one reason. The second one, that she wasn't that pretty. The third reason was that she started late. Like, if you want to be a singer, you have to be young, in your early 20s. She started in her mid-30s, probably late 40s. The poor girl after that turned to black magic, like in those cultures in the eastern world, on the east side of the world. They believe in black magic. They think it's a mean to reach their goals. Some people want to do it to make someone fall in love with them. Some people want to make it tend to magic to have married people divorce if they are in love with a married man or a married woman, and malicious acts like that. So Mazina, out of desperation, and one day while she was out in a party or something, she met this wealthy man called Muhammad. Muhammad was in love with her already because he have seen her on TV, or he have seen her singing, and he was actually wealthy. He approached her because he wanna have a relationship with her, and he told her, I'm gonna help you with your music. I'm gonna spend money on you so you happen. I think you need more money. You have like nothing. You are pretty. I love you. Out of desperation, she approved to marry him. She thought that he really can help her, and that the only thing that she needs is just the money to make it and to make her dreams come true and become famous singer. Mazina did a little bit of a plastic surgery, and he's paid for her, and then he bought her clothes, and he took her to professionals who designed her clothes and did her hair different, thinking that she will make it in the singing industry. Eventually, he almost ran out of money. He spent all his wealth on her, but she never made it. And both of them became so desperate, they didn't know what to do. So she turned to witchcrafting and black magic. Her husband, of course, didn't mind this new profession because they made so much money, it was ridiculous. They had 2 castles, bunch of cars. Their life changed drastically. They even start to have a housemaid. They had a chauffeur. They had an assistant with them. And the most important person in this story is the assistant. His name is Jeremy. And she built another specialized place, because this type of profession has to be done in secret, and it's kind of frowned upon, and the government doesn't allow it, so she has to do it in secret. All her clients has to show up in secret, take an appointments, and her workshop was underneath the house. She built a basement and decorated it with a dark theme. It was a darker place. She had foggy scents and all the time. She had dead animals, bones, some tools and feathers and animal skin and stuff like that all over the place. So it looked like it's a dungeon from hell, which gave it legitimacy and made it look professional, as it should look, like a witchcrafting dark magic center. One day, one of her most important clients was this politician. The politician name was Mazlan. He was a very famous and very wealthy guy, extremely wealthy. And he was very ambitious. He wanted to be the president of Malaysia. And of course, like anybody else, he thought he needed a big push to win his position. He wasn't sure. He wanted to be 100 sure that he gets the position, and it was his ultimate dream. So he, of course, turned to Sozana, which changed her name to Mona Fandey. So she is known now by the name Mona Fandey, the magician. He turned to her to fulfill his dream, and he told her he want to be the next president of Malaysia. And she told him, I have to go and ask my assistants, which is the genies for the black magic. And she told him to come back after 3 days, and that he shouldn't tell anybody about this, and he should show up late at night at 11 p.m. And of course, she cannot make him a president. This was way beyond her power. So she had another plan, but she cannot lose that money. She cannot tell him that. So she had an evil plan to get rid of him and kill him and take his money. What her plan is that she asked him, as I said, to come late at night. She had her husband prepared and her assistant Jeremy there. So only her husband, and Jeremy was there. And of course, she told him to show up alone, not to tell anybody, and he followed her instructions. He showed up to the place. She took him to the basement and told him to lay down, half naked almost. She covered his lower body with a piece of cloth. She put some oil in his body, put an eye mask on his eye, and told him to relax while she does the rituals. She started burning some scents, and the place became so foggy. She started to say some gibberish words, like if she's saying the rituals to do the black magic on him so he can get his position as the next president of Malaysia. When suddenly her assistant, when suddenly she maybe or her husband cut off his head with a sword. So this politician Mazlan has been murdered. What happened next is really gruesome and really horrific. They cut him in pieces. So instead of wasting the whole situation, she thought she should sacrifice this victim to the genies and to show she can get a higher position, and so she satisfied them and provide the sacrifice to them as a token, so they teach her more and they help her more, which really happened. She became really so devilish to the point that her husband reported to the police that her face changed, and he started to see her like really in a scary way, like the devil himself. But the wealth and the money blinded him, so he stayed with her. The poor politician, the agreement was to give her $600,000 for the first session, and that's how she convinced him to come back. And then after the second session, he will give her 10 pieces of lands, and the total of her profit was $4 million, which was way beyond anybody dreams in Malaysian currency, because the standard of living there was way less than us. So 4 million could put you in the cloud. She became extremely wealthy. She bought even 4 castles. Her life changed drastically. She had multiple cars. She started traveling the world, and she became really flashy. She made even more plastic surgeries, tried to go back to singing, but of course she failed because she's really old and her face changed, and I'm gonna leave pictures for you at the end of the video to see what happened to her. It was a ridiculous situation. And they actually buried this politician in the basement itself. They didn't care. They moved on, all of them. They moved on with their life like nothing happened. Probably 8 years passed or 9 years passed. And one day, the way that the police captured them all was because her assistant, Jeremy, was driving one day, really speeding, and he was drunk. So he got captured by the police and got questioned. And the police, like in no time, because he was drunk, he just poured it out, all of it, and told them exactly what happened and everything that she did that night, and confessed. He even told them that they didn't just sacrifice the poor guy and cut him into 10 pieces. They even ate part of his body. He said that the genies told Mona Fandey, the criminal, to do that, so they do more black magic for her and give her more access to their power. Oh my God. And immediately the police told him where the body was, and he guided them to the house. They captured Mona, they captured her husband, and of course the biggest evidence is that he pointed their assistant pointed out to them where the body was buried, and they found his bones, and that was the biggest evidence. In those nations, usually the trial doesn't take that long, but because she was a very public image, she had so much money, she hired the biggest lawyers in the country, they kept using the system really well, where they start applying for appeal after an appeal, like finding holes in the law where they misused them, until eventually she got sentenced to death. Malaysia is a Muslim country, and in their constitution, a life is for a life, unless the family of the victim forgive the criminal, then the penalty is life in a prison, and they probably, or something like that, and then they have to pay a specific amount of money that the family of the victim requests, no matter what it is. Eventually, during the trial, what was extremely bizarre is that Mona was showing up in fancy, flashy clothes. She was smiling all the time. She was waving to the lawyers, and she was treating the jury and the people attending the trial like her audience. So probably she lost her mind, and she thought that she's famous because cameras were all over. Her trial was all over TV because of her high profile, and because of the politician, the victim, who was a high profile politician. So she lived like she's a famous person. So she showed up with a lot of makeup. She showed up smiling. She was clapping and waving to the people attending the trial like if they were her audience. It was crazy. So she pulled out a really good show for herself. And it was so creepy. Even on the day of her sentence, she got her sentence, and they took her life in 1999. The sentence was at 1999, but everybody got the sentence, and they got executed in 2001, in November 2001. Until her last day, she said, "I'm not gonna die. I'll come back to you, and I'm gonna take revenge." But she never came back, of course. She was so full of herself. She even was smiling and laughing all the time. And that's the end of our story. So if you like this type of a story, please comment and let me know. And peace and love your way. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the story. Until our next story, take care.